Good evening. Our top story tonight, Amari Cooper is out for the Cleveland Browns. That was literally just announced before we came live on air. So Amari Cooper not going to play. But our original top story is Russell Wilson. We all know he's been benched by the Denver Broncos. We all know they expect to move on from Russell Wilson. But where's he going to go? The betting odds right now would tell you the Minnesota Vikings. They've made another shakeup at quarterback. It is now Jarren starting once again. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Amari Cooper. We'll talk about injuries across the NFL and so much more on Player Profiler today. Happy to have so many friends here in the chat already. Danny from the 6. Gotta play Breece Hall tonight, right? Cleveland gonna make it low scoring. Other options, I have Zamir White and T. Higgins, or I could play both and sit Hall, but IDK. No, you're starting Breece Hall for sure. And if you have to decide between Zamir White and T. Higgins, I think I lean Zamir White the way things are trending, with Josh Jacobs looking like he's going to be out once again. But it's close. The PPR does have me kind of leaning back in the T. Higgins direction. So I lean towards Higgins for now, but it goes Breece Hall, T. Higgins, and then Zamir White. Since Amari is out, should I play Jerome Ford over London in PPR? I don't think you want to do that. I think I'm still trusting Drake London. The Falcons need a win. I think Arthur Smith should hopefully open up the offense, use his best players. So I'd stick with Drake London over Jerome Ford. Amari Cooper, pass catcher. Running back Jerome Ford, I don't see he sees that much boost in targets. So I don't know about that. But anyways, Russell Wilson, moving on to that. We have odds for his next team. Russell Wilson Bet Online has the Minnesota Vikings at plus 500 to be the next team to land Russell Wilson. And this has sparked some debate. Would you rather Russell Wilson at a reduced rate as he looks to rehab, probably a 1-year deal for Russell Wilson? Could be more. Maybe he does swing for the fences, but more than likely a 1-year budget deal, let's call it. Or would you rather Kirk Cousins over a couple years? Kirk Cousins also has some dead cap that will hit the Minnesota Vikings that they've pushed forward over the years. If he doesn't re-sign, if Kirk Cousins re-sign, then they can spread that dead cap out over a couple years going forward. But for now, what would you rather have? Kirk Cousins off an Achilles or Russell Wilson? I don't know. But part of the question also then becomes, what about Jarren Hall? Jarren Hall is going to start this week. We'll talk about him more in a bit. But if Jarren Hall plays well enough that you're confident, okay, Jarren Hall can be our week 1 starter, maybe our week 2 starter, maybe even our week 3 starter. And after that, we turn back to Kirk Cousins because he's all healed up from the Achilles. I don't know. But those are some arguments for the Minnesota Vikings. Now, the number 2 team for Russell Wilson is the New England Patriots. And I don't know about that. That feels more like Bill Belichick is going to stay type of betting odds. The Patriots are going to draft a quarterback at this point. The Patriots are going to lose their next 2 games. They're going to be picking high. They are going to draft a quarterback with a new head coach. Don't know who the new head coach is going to be. Don't see Russell Wilson landing there. Then we've got the Commanders and the Raiders at plus 700. The Raiders feels a little bit more likely, but is Antonio Pierce going to have that job? Are they going to hire someone young and exciting? How is that going to shake out? The Commanders, I can't see the Commanders landing Russell Wilson. I think the Commanders, much like the Patriots, they're going to be picking high. They're going to be taking a Drake May. They're going to be taking a Jaden Daniels. They're going to be taking a Caleb Williams. So I don't see that. The Falcons and Steelers at plus 800, though. Those teams interest me. Could Russell Wilson end up with the Atlanta Falcons? Could the Atlanta Falcons look within their own division? Should they move on from Arthur Smith, hire Dave Canales, the offensive coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have had all the success with Baker Mayfield? And by the way, Dave Canales was Russell Wilson's quarterback coach with the Seahawks. So could that be a connection? We've also got the Bears and Giants at plus 800. Maybe the Giants. Don't see it with the Bears. I think the Bears are, if they move on from Justin Fields are obviously drafting a quarterback with that first overall pick. Cardinals and Bucks at plus 1,000. Saints at plus 1,100. And the Seattle Seahawks, a return there, plus 3,300. So where do you think Russell Wilson's going to land? Let us know in the chat before we talk more about the Denver Broncos, the Minnesota Vikings, what is going on all across the board. We've got a word from the Podfather.
Now, I know many of you are looking for a secret weapon for your Dynasty League, and I have it. It's called the Dynasty Dominator app. You go to the App Store, go to Google Play. It's right there. It's $5 to download, and then every year it's $5 to load the next incoming class of rookies. You can add superflex, add tight end premium. It's incredible because it allows you to look up players. It allows you to vote on whether a player is a buy, hold, or sell, and then see the market sentiment on that player. And you can compare their lifetime value rating from PlayerProfiler to their Dynasty ADP at the FFPC, all in the price lookup tool. And beyond that, we have a trade analyzer, so you'll never lose another Dynasty trade again. And in our settings, you can set this is a win now team, this is a rebuilding team, and then we let you compare players. Look at their metrics side by side, prospect metrics, NFL metrics. It's all there. It's $5 in the App Store. There's some add-ons for Superflex and to buy the upcoming rookie class. Every year, you're going to spend $5 on this thing, and it's going to be well worth it. This episode brought to you by Mojo. Mojo is that player stock market. We love Mojo because we like making lifetime bets on players. You run out the clock on these guys. Mojo just rolled out a brand new fantasy platform. That's right. So now you can build a portfolio of player props. Oh, Jamar Chase, over 77.5. Oh, Kadarius Toney, under 15.5. Whatever the under is on Kadarius Toney, doesn't matter. You can just stack up the props in your portfolio. And the beauty is, once the Sunday games kick off, it's not over. It's not over until it's over with Mojo, because once those games kick off, you can then move in and out of positions. Let's say that you're well ahead of expectations. You can cash out. Let's say you're behind expectations. You're underwater. Well, you can double down. That's what makes Mojo so special, why they're different. Check it out. Go to the App Store, get the Mojo app, and use the promo code UNDERWORLD. The promo code UNDERWORLD gets you a 100% deposit match up to $100. So the promo code is UNDERWORLD, and they will match your deposit dollar for dollar. Go to Mojo, start building your portfolio, and then during the games, you can be a fantasy day trader.
And we are back, and unfortunately, Amari Cooper is out. Yes, we learned that right as this show went live. If you have any questions on how to adapt with Amari Cooper out, hit us up in the comments. Let us know where you think Russell Wilson's going to land. I don't think he's going to land with the Vikings. I think the Falcons, the Steelers are my two likeliest teams. Maybe the Raiders, somewhere like that. Maybe the Giants. Not the Vikings, not the Patriots, not the Commanders, not the Cardinals, not the Bucks. I don't think any of these particularly make sense. Maybe the Bucks if they move on from Baker, but I think they're going to have a cheaper option in Baker than Russell Wilson. I don't know. Either way, Steelers, by the way, are the favorites elsewhere, so make sure you shop around when you use your betting odds. Toronto Dave, happy to have you in the chat, of course. Always a pleasure when you can tune in. So for the Denver Broncos, they're going to be without Russell Wilson this week. He's the backup quarterback now. Cortland Sutton looks like he might be out as well. He's in concussion protocol. Doesn't practice yesterday. Doesn't practice today. Looks like he's going to be out. Marvin Mims also popped up in the injury report today with a hamstring. So it looks like he suffered a hamstring injury at the end of practice yesterday. Likely out, depending on how practice goes. Hopefully, we see a limited or a full practice from Marvin Mims tomorrow. Not a good sign, though, when you pick up a hamstring injury midweek. Greg Dulcich also still not at practice. So the Broncos, 7% chance to make the playoffs still. Hoping for 2 losses from the Buffalo Bills and then 2 wins and then some other magic that they need to go on. It's not happening. Broncos are out. They're moving on from Russell Wilson. And like we talked about, the team favorited to land Russell Wilson right now is the Minnesota Vikings. They are starting Jarren Hall. Jarren Hall going to be QB1 on Sunday Night Football. And this is a must win for the Minnesota Vikings to keep their playoff hopes alive right now. The Rams can clinch playoffs with a win and a Seahawks loss. The Seahawks can clinch playoffs with a win and a Vikings versus Packers tie. So it's coming down to the wire. The Dallas Cowboys / Philadelphia Eagles, they've already clinched that 5th seed as well as the hosting a game. So it's down to basically 4 teams for 2 spots. And I guess the Saints and the Falcons still technically in it, but it kind of seems like it's the Rams, the favorite in the NFC, the Seahawks, probably number 2, and the winner of the Packers versus Vikings game. It's going to come down to that. Vikings rolling with Jarren Hall. And the reason for that is all of the turnovers that we've seen. They want Jarren Hall to just be a game manager because this is a great offense. We saw it even with Nick Mullins throwing for 400 yards. Also threw 4 interceptions. Nick Mullins, 6 interceptions, 2 fumbles. Both of the fumbles were recovered by the Minnesota Vikings, but 6 interceptions, 2 fumbles. That's putting the ball in harm's way a lot. Josh Dobbs, very similar, 5 interceptions, 3 fumbles that he lost. That's what's killing the Minnesota Vikings. They want more stability, something that Kirk Cousins doesn't do a whole lot, something Russell Wilson also hasn't done a whole lot. But Jarren Hall, hoping that he can manage this offense. In his first start, he completed 5 of 6 passes for 78 yards, added 11 rushing yards as well, and then had the concussion on one of his runs. Vikings still have a 19% chance at the playoffs, by the way. They'll rely on Jarren Hall to lead them to the playoffs. 3,171 yards passing in his final year at BYU, 31 TDs, basically succeeding Zach Wilson there. And so he now joins Jarrett Stidham, Jacoby Brissett, and Tyrod Taylor as the new starters this week. So that is for Jarren Hall, Stidham, Brissett, and Taylor. But this is just the year of the backup because we've got those 4. We've got Joe Flacco. We've got Gardner Minshew. We've got Taylor Heineke. We've got Mason Rudolph. We've got Easton Stick. We've got Jake Browning. We've got Aiden O'Connell. We've got Trevor Siemian. 12 backups starting in week 17. Insane. I can't believe this is where we are at this point in the season. So Vikings against the Packers, by the way. Packers a little bit banged up. Christian Watson did not practice once again. It looks like he's going to be out another week with that hamstring injury. Dontavian Wicks didn't practice yesterday or today, battling a chest and an ankle injury. And the Packers are going to be without their cornerback number 1, Jair Alexander, the egomaniac, suspended for making himself a captain, not being named a captain, and then almost ruining the coin toss. We'll see if there are any coin toss shenanigans tonight on Thursday Night Football. Remember, Amari Cooper is out. Not a good sign. Not a good sign. And if you want to hear more about this Thursday night matchup, you can catch me and Bradley Stalder immediately after this. Also, on the Roto Underworld YouTube channel, we will be on the tailgate together, the final tailgate of the season, talking all things Browns versus Jets without Amari Cooper, who just didn't feel right in his pregame warm-ups. So Joe Flacco going to be without his wide receiver 1, still a revenge game. Joe Flacco and Elijah Moore against the New York Jets. The New York Jets who did not call Joe Flacco when Aaron Rodgers went down. Imagine how the Jets season could have turned out had they stuck with Joe Flacco, had they brought Joe Flacco back instead of just running it out with Zach Wilson. What a mistake. Joe Flacco looking to make them pay. Browns were 7.5-point favorites before the Amari Cooper news broke. I don't know what that line would shift to. Maybe shifts to 6.5. I don't know if Amari Cooper is a full point difference swing at this point with this team that we've got from the Cleveland Browns. It is a talented team, talented defense that we've got from the Browns. And the Jets will be without Allen Lazard. He is sick tonight, not going to play. Trevor Siemian going to be QB1 with Garrett Wilson. We'll see how it all shakes out. David Njoku, number 2 favorite in odds to score a touchdown, by the way. Breece Hall, obviously, number 1. Those odds for David Njoku are going to be even grosser now that Amari Cooper is out. David Njoku, Elijah Moore going to be wide receiver 1 and 2. Cedric Wilson going to be the 3. Whew, it is going to be ugly. This is going to be a low-scoring affair. Though it is Thursday Night Football, maybe I'm wrong. A high-scoring affair, or at least a game that has the potential for that, is the Baltimore Ravens versus the Miami Dolphins. That That should really be the Sunday night football game instead of the Packers versus the Vikings that no one cares about with QB4, except he's really QB2, except he's really QB3, Jarren Hall with the shuffling, the musical chairs at quarterback. But Ravens Dolphins should be Sunday night football because if the Baltimore Ravens win this, they win the AFC North, they win the number 1 seed. By the way, Browns lose tonight to the New York Jets. Ravens clinch the AFC North. So the Ravens are rooting against the Browns, but it's also kind of nice to go out on your own merit to clinch the division yourself. The Baltimore Ravens are going to be looking to do that with a win against the Dolphins. If the Browns win tonight, Dolphins will be looking to stay alive in the hunt to win that first seed. If they beat the Ravens, they'll have the same record. It'll come down to week 18, Dolphins versus Bills. Dolphins, by the way, will clinch the AFC East with a win. If they lose to the Baltimore Ravens, then it is Dolphins, Bills. And it'll probably be the Sunday night football game for the AFC East. Winner, probably the 2 seed. Loser, probably the 5 seed, maybe the 6 seed. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. So the Dolphins going to be without Jalen Waddle. He has a high ankle sprain, not expected to play. Tyreek Hill did not practice yesterday. He returned limited today. He's dealing with his own high ankle sprain, but Tyreek Hill, an absolute monster. 9 for 99 against the Dallas Cowboys on a high ankle sprain is insane. Raheem Mostert didn't practice today or yesterday. We have seen him rest plenty of time. The Dolphins are always very careful with Raheem Mostert. If he's limited tomorrow, like he's expected to be, then you're starting Raheem Mostert, even if he's limited. Probably going to be full go. This is just how the Dolphins treat Raheem Mostert. He says he feels like he's gotten a car crash after every single game with all of the injuries that he has picked up. Devon Achane also expected to play. He was limited in practice today. McBride or Njoku since Cooper is out. Oh, well, we also have some bad news for the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray battling an illness, did not practice yesterday, did not practice today, but he was at the facility today. Yesterday, he didn't even attend. He was just not there at all. Was in the building today, though. So I think Kyler Murray is going to play. But do you have to go David Njoku, the consolidation of targets, without Amari Cooper? For the fantasy football championship, the reliability of Trey McBride. I think we're going David Njoku. Going to see that target bump without Amari Cooper. Do love me some Trey McBride, but geez, these are the questions. These are the conversations. These are the decisions that could win your season. I appreciate you trusting me with those decisions. So Kyler Murray does look like he's going to play, even though he hasn't been practicing as of late. Zay Flowers could be out this weekend as well. Did not practice yesterday, did not practice today, dealing with a calf injury. So maybe no Zay Flowers, maybe no Kyle Hamilton. He either aggravated the MCL injury that he already had or sustained a new injury because it's the same knee. We don't actually know what is going on with Kyle Hamilton. We haven't had any updates. He was at practice. He wasn't doing much. He wasn't moving well. So maybe no Kyle Hamilton, maybe no Zay Flowers. But the Ravens will wear their black jerseys with their purple pants. They are 3-0 when they wear that matchup, looking to clinch the number 1 seed. Zamir White and Zeke looking to carry Gooner Boy to a fantasy championship. Best of luck to you. Hope that all shakes out for you. Chiefs, by the way, some bad news. Isaiah Pacheco did not practice yesterday, did not practice today. Not looking good for Isaiah Pacheco. He remains in concussion protocol. He would need a limited practice tomorrow and then a full practice Saturday. There's not actually a practice on Saturday. There's a possibility, but so often we see if you don't practice on Thursday, you're probably out with the concussion. Usually, or at least early in the season, players would be out with a concussion no matter what. We've seen them kind of back off, and that's been a little bit more lax. But if you don't practice on Thursday, you're typically out. There's still a chance, like with Trevor Lawrence, that Isaiah Pacheco gets cleared, but not looking good. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire also did not practice today. CEH was sick, did not attend practice today. He was out, which is not good news for the Kansas City Chiefs in their skid that they've been going under lately. 2-4 over their past 6 games. Though they can still clinch the AFC West with a win, and they win the division. If they lose, win next week, they win the division. They need 2 losses and 2 Raiders wins, or sorry, 2 Broncos wins to give up the division. Maybe the Raiders still in it too. I can't remember actually. But either way, Jerick McKinnon also on injured reserve, as you may remember. Kadarius Toney did not practice today. Speaking of those Raiders, Josh Jacobs still not practicing. Didn't practice today. Didn't practice yesterday. Still dealing with that quad injury. Looks like another week of Zamir White. Josh Jacobs going to be out once again. Keenan Allen looks like he's going to be out with a heel injury. Josh Palmer looks like he's also going to be out with a concussion. Neither of them practiced today. Both Chargers wide receivers out of practice today. Both could return tomorrow, but it looks unlikely, especially with nothing to play for at this point in the season for the Los Angeles Chargers. Just a wasted season. Arizona Cardinals, we mentioned earlier, Kyler Murray didn't practice, but looks like he is going to play with illness. Bears might not have Darnell Mooney, who's in concussion protocol, didn't practice today or yesterday. Cole Kmet also didn't practice with a knee injury, though. Cole Kmet has missed plenty of practice time with a knee injury throughout the season. So it's a chance he returns limited tomorrow, and Cole Kmet is still good to go. But we'll see with him. Darnell Mooney looks like he's going to be out. Commanders going to be without Chris Rodriguez, the running back that they drafted in the 5th round, 6th round out of Kentucky, placed on injured reserve. He is done for the year. And the Commanders, by the way, as I mentioned earlier, I think they're going to be looking at a quarterback. They've been bad enough, or at least they were bad enough with Sam Howell, that it looked like they were going to get a top 3 draft pick, maybe top 4 draft pick, and be looking at Caleb Williams, Drake May, or Jaden Daniels. And Ron Rivera is trying his best to make sure that doesn't happen because he knows he's going to be fired. He wants to win with Jacoby Brissett, wants to say screw you to the team that's about to fire him. So Ron Rivera looking to win. Commanders hoping to lose. But either way, the Commanders are very interested in what happens with that first overall pick. We know the Bears could shop that pick that they have from the Carolina Panthers first overall, though seems more likely that they're going to draft Caleb Williams. But the Commanders are very, very interested in Caleb Williams. Also very interested in whatever they don't do. Because if the Bears do take Caleb Williams, okay, well, we're left with 2 quarterbacks. The Commanders not going to be in on Russell Wilson. They are in on 3 rookie quarterbacks, depending on how things shake out with the Chicago Bears. So don't expect to see Russ. Expect to see a rookie with the Washington Commanders with the new ownership group. Maybe a name change. We've talked about a name change potentially in the past as well. Panthers, by the way, going to be without Chuba Hubbard. Do not expect to see Chuba Hubbard in the matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence didn't practice today. He was initially supposed to practice today, is what we were told this morning by Doug Peterson. And then ultimately, Trevor Lawrence is not out there. Peterson admits there's some tough decisions to be made. He's dealing with a right shoulder injury. Also had the concussion last week. Also had an ankle injury earlier in the season, a high ankle sprain. Also had a knee injury. Trevor Lawrence has been battered to hell. And so the Jaguars might sit him for a week. But the problem is the Jaguars need a win, a Colts and Texans loss in order to win the division, in order to clinch the playoffs. If they lose to the Panthers, then it goes another week and the division could still be up for grabs. So the Jaguars can't afford to lose this one, but can you afford to put Trevor Lawrence out there and potentially jeopardize next week or your playoff run? Quite the decision to be made for the Jacksonville Jaguars. CJ Beathard could end up being their starting quarterback. The Bengals are expected to be without Jamar Chase for another week, though he was talking to the media, was flirting with the idea of a return. Sounds like he's going to miss one more week with the AC joint injury and then return for week 18 as the Bengals face off against the Kansas City Chiefs. Tough matchup for T. Higgins ahead, though T. Higgins going to see more targets without Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins still pretty incredible. Cowboys take on the Detroit Lions on Monday Night Football on Saturday night. So it's a presentation by the Monday Night Football crew. Troy Aikman, Joe Buck going to be on commentary. It's just in week 17, they get rid of Monday Night Football. So Lions, Cowboys, Saturday Night Football, presented by Monday Night Football. This is going to be the game where Jimmy Johnson goes into the Cowboys Ring of Honor. This is going to be the game with the Dallas Cowboys all excited, looking to win the division. We've already seen the line shift from +6 or -6 for the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys favored by 6. We've already seen that drop down to 4.5. The people believe in the Detroit Lions. Tyron Smith was able to complete the walkthrough that they did have today, so they might have their left tackle back. This is going to be a fun one. This is going to be a battle. This is going to be a war. The Lions, if they win this one and then beat the Vikings next week, they clinch that 2 seed at least, depending on what happens with the San Francisco 49ers over these next 2 weeks. Then we also have the Cowboys, who are still looking to win their division. Flacco or Jarren Hall? I think you got to go with Joe Flacco. You cannot take the risk of Jarren Hall. We don't know what he is. We have not seen enough of him. I know it's a bad matchup for Joe Flacco. I would still think, with his connection with David Njoku and the connection he's shown with Elijah Moore at times as well, he's going to do enough. Whereas I just don't trust Jarren Hall. We have no idea what he actually is. We saw 2 drives from Jarren Hall, and I'm just not confident in that at all. Back to the Dallas Cowboys, by the way, they need a win. If they lose and the Eagles win, then that gives the division to the Eagles. By the way, Dak Prescott expected to land a massive new contract, anywhere from $55 to $60 million this offseason. And Dak has all the leverage because Dak is still under contract. Dak can just play it out. It makes no difference to him. It makes a difference to the team because the cap hit for Dak Prescott is going to be completely unmanageable. So Cowboys are going to have to pay Dak Prescott this offseason after an MVP type performance. Back up that Brinks truck. Good news, not all bad news across the NFL. Texans will have CJ Stroud. He is back. He has cleared concussion protocol. Michael Pittman expected to be back this weekend. He shed his no contact jersey. Looks like he's about to clear concussion protocol again. Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams, they were both questionable yesterday. Trent Williams did not practice. Deebo was limited. Both are expected to play. Trent Williams returned to practice on a limited basis. So that's great news. Lions expected to have Taylor Decker. He's going to play against the Dallas Cowboys, though CJGJ, CD Deuce, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, he is out. Not going to make his return from a torn pec. Instead, they will start Ifeatu Melifonwu for another week, the NFC Defensive Player of the Week. Will also not bring back James Houston just yet. Was at practice today. His 21-day practice window is open, but will not make his return just yet. Lions also waive Chase Lucas, who was a 7th-round draft pick last year for the team, hoping to bring him back to the practice squad if he's not claimed. Do so in order to activate Jason Kabinda. But it's not actually just that. They also waived Trevor Nowasaki, who they're expecting to get back. He's a linebacker. So that's more of the replacement for Kabinda, a special teamer, and Nowasaki for Jason Kabinda, the fullback special teamer. Chase Lucas being waived leaves one spot open, and now they have some moves to make for the Detroit Lions in the coming season or coming weeks. They've got Michael Badgley, who is their kicker, who they only have one more elevation for, so they're going to have to sign him at some point. CJGJ is going to be returning in short order, so that's going to be a decision they have to make. James Houston going to be returning in the next 2-3 weeks. Ali McNeil could be returning in the next 2-3 weeks. Bruce Irvin, also on the practice squad, someone that they could elevate or sign to the active roster. And Tyson Alu could also be activated from the practice squad, 2 36-year-olds that the Lions have signed. So lots of potential moves, lots of potential shakeups for this Detroit Lions team. It is a team that is getting healthy at a good time. I cannot wait to see them against the Dallas Cowboys. Lions could end up hosting the Los Angeles Rams. Like I said earlier, they clinched the playoffs with a win and a Seahawks loss. Seahawks clinch playoffs with a win and a Packers-Vikings tie. So the NFC wildcard could be all sorted out by the end of the week. Well, actually, no, because the Seahawks win, then the Rams can't clinch. So there'll still be one spot up for grabs, but still figuring things out in this NFC playoffs. And by the way, NFC South, Bucks can clinch the division with a win over the Saints or a Falcons loss. If the Falcons win and the Bucks lose to the Saints, then it goes another week. I'm a Jets fan. Hope I'm playing Hall Goat. Good luck with Jarren Hall. I hope he gets you the W. I hope everyone out here who is still in the playoffs is able to get the W and make this year the year they win the fantasy football championship. By the way, other people who, like you, should be earning awards in short order, you'll be awarded with your fantasy championship, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We are getting much closer to that decision. Joe Flacco or Matthew Stafford? Stafford, absolutely. Absolutely. Matthew Stafford, not a question at all. Go with Matthew Stafford over Joe Flacco in a tough matchup without his wide receiver one. Anyways, Pro Football Hall of Fame. We are down to 15 modern day finalists. 10 have been eliminated. 5 will be inducted. So from this list of 15, you got to choose 5. And it's a really good list. We've got Antonio Gates and Julius Peppers. Those are the first ballot Hall of Famers, first year eligible for those two. We also, at the edge rusher position, have Jared Allen and Dwight Freeney. James Harrison, Robert Mathis were eliminated, did not make it to the finalists, and Vince Wilfork, the nose tackle, didn't as well. At receiver, we've got Andre Johnson, Torrey Holt, Reggie Wayne, and Devin Hester, who's more of a returner. Steve Smith, Hines Ward, and Anquan Bolden did not make it as finalists. Fred Taylor, the only running back that made the nomination. Antonio Gates, also the only tight end that made the nomination. Ricky Waters, Tiki Barber, and Eddie George all did not make it to the finalist round at the running back position. At linebacker, we've got Patrick Willis. No London Fletcher. He was not able to make the final list. Willie Anderson and Jari Evans on the offensive line, former Browns and Ravens offensive tackle in Willie Anderson, and Jari Evans, the Saints, all-pro Super Bowl winning offensive lineman. And then at safety, defensive back, Rodney Harrison, Darren Woodson, and Eric Allen all nominated. Would you play Zamir over Achane if Dave? Yes, I would. Zamir White, more of a bell cow. Trust him a lot more than Devon Achane, who we don't know his role with the injury. So that's the list that we have. My 5 that I would pick for the NFL Hall of Fame to receive those honors. For me, it would be Antonio Gates. Antonio Gates leads the NFL all time in tight end touchdowns, 5 more than Tony Gonzalez, 23 touchdowns more than Gronk. Antonio Gates got to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. So does Julius Peppers. Julius Peppers, 4th all time in sacks, 23 and a half more sacks than Jared Allen, 34 and a half sacks more than Dwight Freeney. Got to have Julius Peppers and Antonio Gates as these first ballot Hall of Famers. Then for me, I would go Andre Johnson. He's my choice at wide receiver. You could go Torrey Holt as well. Torrey Holt, very deserving, has waited a long time to get in. Then I'd go Patrick Willis. Patrick Willis, 8 years, a very short career, 6 All-Pros and 7 Pro Bowls in that 8-year career. Patrick Willis was the linebacker of my generation. And then Devin Hester, he is the best to ever do it as a punt returner. Devin Hester has to be in the Hall of Fame. If you're the best to ever do it, and Devin Hester is objectively the best punt returner of all time, just like Cordero Patterson is the best kick returner of all time, those guys have to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.